Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of Money in Motion. Joined here with Monte. So, looking forward to another day in markets, taking a look at price action because the Nasdaq's absolutely ripping. Um, dollar is going to zero, evidently. So just some really crazy moves all around. Excited to break those down and talk to you guys about a little bit what we're doing in terms of trading strategy and then what we're looking towards for next week as we kind of wrap up, the end of this week. But Monty, anything that you've, taken a look at or maybe want to kick things off with?
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about today. And I'm glad we got an episode of Trading Rebellion later, because, like I said, there is a lot to cover, and I'm excited to see how the day is going to shake out, because we are looking pretty good to start the day. One thing that I had talked about yesterday was, using funding rates to enter positions, and assets with overwhelmingly negative funding rates tend to get squeezed to the upside. So I want to show a few examples about that happening in the last 24 hours. And then on top of that, I think definitely worth mentioning the price action in the DXY. I mean, you've mentioned it in the last few episodes, but it doesn't seem like any sign of stopping. That may be a good starting point if you would like to start there, or with traditional equities.
Well, the thing is just like when these carry trades and FX unwind, there's just like billions and billions of dollars that need to come out of these positions. And,
Yeah.
they can get squeezed out real quick. Yeah. Yen gave back basically the entire summer's gains for anyone who's like shorting it.
Yeah.
So I think like looking at like the violence of those squeezes, I think you can definitely learn something from, and it's obvious in terms of like the danger of crowded trades and how trend following can go wrong if you're doing it in trades that like a lot of people have on with tons of leverage.
Yeah, positioning is everything. I mean, we can talk about CPI, PPI, any three-letter acronym you want.
Are we going to start the fundamentals rant this early in the show? I'm all for it. I'm all for it. Yeah, fundamentals don't matter because they're already priced in because the market is a discounting mechanism, and there's many smart and capable people on Wall Street who will factor in these fundamentals. So therefore, the only way we can get an edge and make money over time is by understanding sentiment and positioning. And anytime a talking head says something sentiment position is one thing, but fundamentals matter, that's like a good key to do the opposite. Go George Costanza on him. Anyways, let's get into some charts because I'd like to talk about some stuff that's actionable today. Monty, do you want to take it first, or should I jump in?
Go ahead. You start with, you got any traditional equities you want to cover?
Yeah, why don't we just start with the NASDAQ chart here because things are really trending and looks like we, could go to, all-time highs. I think it's likely in the cards for 2023 or 2024. But I mean, we are still neutral in terms of positioning. So we'll see. I mean, everybody's kind of waiting for that 5 to 10% pullback in stocks. I wouldn't mind seeing that to buy some crypto equities a little bit cheaper, things like coin. That might not happen though. The super cycle may just continue. So either way, I think it's wise to at least have some small crypto exposure, not as much as, we talked about, earlier in the month, but, I'm hoping that we get another chance to buy this pullback, but, it could just keep going on us just as easily from my perspective. As for like the DXY, this is a tremendous move. I was talking in our community earlier today about how this really reminded me of, obviously they're very different assets, but this reminds me of a very similar technical breakdown of what we saw in Bitcoin in 2017 or 2018, excuse me. And it's just like the aspect of capitulation, it's very evident. But yeah, let me just bring up Bitcoin for those who like the descending triangles. Because like this thing, obviously we consolidated for a lot longer than the DXY. The DXY kind of just broke down right from its previous lower high.
Yeah.
But you can really flush to some of these lower levels. And so on the DXY, that's what, like, maybe 90 something. Let me get back to the DXY. Yeah, so I mean, you're looking at potentially flushing to like 97. I'm not saying that's going to happen immediately. I'm just saying that's kind of like the target of what Bitcoin did after it broke down from its descending triangle in 2018. Um, you know, I would imagine we'd see some profit taking, but this is just a really strong trend right now. Next target seems to be like 99. And you've seen a myriad of assets really respond to that, whether it be other currencies, T notes, gold has had a pretty good week. Eh. But yeah, I can talk about individual trades as well in a moment, but I just kind of wanted to give a brief like market overview. I guess not a whole lot of new to glean today, just really bullish continuation that we're seeing.
Yeah, definitely looking good as we start the day here. We'll see if it continues throughout the day. Like I said, fortunate that we have an episode of Trading Rebellion later. We can provide an update on some of this price action, but let's take a look at Bitcoin and see what's going on there, because showing signs of positive price action, nothing too significant. And what I glean from this is like, take a look at Bitcoin versus ETH, slightly outperforming. We talk a lot about the ETH BTC chart, especially on Trading Rebellion. Nick and I often take a look at this chart. Not exactly convincing that ETH is, going to rebound and outperform Bitcoin anytime soon. CJ, you made a great point yesterday about how, some of these names like Mara, Riot, Coin are acting as high beta vehicles to Bitcoin, almost like altcoins have in the past for Bitcoin. We're not seeing that from many of the alts, right? It's happening in the traditional space. It's happening with institutional investors getting exposure to the crypto space via either Coinbase or the miners. That's how they're getting their exposure, not directly through Bitcoin. In 2021, Bitcoin was the leader, right? If we go back to all the way back to 2021, this is when we had like PTJ coming out, talking about buying Bitcoin, Stanley Druckenmiller talking about buying Bitcoin, some big names buying Bitcoin at these levels. Bitcoin led the charge. We saw Bitcoin dominance. Let's take a look at what Bitcoin dominance did during that time. As you can see, in 2021, look how high Bitcoin dominance got, all the way up above 70%. So we were way up there. Bitcoin led the charge. Now, will that be the same this time around? I do think that it will be the same. But what we're seeing actually is something that's new to the cycle. And that's a stage before Bitcoin. So Bitcoin was initially the leader, right? We saw this rise in Bitcoin dominance. And then this massive drop off that we saw here is when all the alts rallied. We had all those layer ones show tremendous gains and outperform Bitcoin to a significant degree. But now what we have is, like CJ very aptly put, some of these crypto related equities essentially acting as high beta vehicles for Bitcoin. And I think that they are the precursor for positive price action for Bitcoin. So now that we're seeing these sort of hockey stick type moves all across the board in these crypto related equities, right? And Bitcoin's kind of just consolidating in this range. When you apply technical analysis and also that sort of flow of capital that we talk about where it goes from Bitcoin to ETH to the altcoins, now add in another layer, add in that layer of publicly traded companies that institutions and big players can get exposure to. That, I think, is the first flag that will be raised that is indicative of a potential bull market. So with Bitcoin here, what we talked about yesterday was the squeezing of the Bollinger Bands, and that's continuing to happen. Continuing to see this sort of tightening of the Bollinger Bands, which typically doesn't last for too long. And honestly, given the price action that we've seen in what is now what I'm considering the first stage of that flow of capital being the publicly traded assets, we're seeing them perform so well. I think Bitcoin, whenever you see this lack of volatility, it typically tells you that price is going to move strong in one direction or the other. With Bitcoin, we know that it makes strong moves in a matter of days. And if you miss out on those days, then you miss out on much of the gains throughout the year. I think that plausibly we see a breakout for Bitcoin above 32K, and make a move up into the mid 30s, potentially high 30s, on the back of that strength that we're seeing in the traditional equity market. So that's what I'm seeing for Bitcoin. And if that does happen, which I do think it will, many altcoins will perform well. And there's a few that I want to take a look at. But before I do, I've been rambling on for quite a bit now. So I want to pass it back to CJ for any thoughts on Bitcoin, or, that relationship between the publicly traded equities and, crypto itself.
Yeah, Bitcoin, I mean, definitely looks a little bit poised for continuation. I haven't bought it or I'm not really trading it yet. I think that, basically my approach to this is wait till we get kind of a more stronger move with like a lot of volume. Probably, I also think because U.S. government might be distributing some coins right now, so maybe that's leading to some of the lag between Bitcoin relative to traditional equities. I don't know. That's just a lot of speculation. But if we see some serious momentum in Bitcoin, there's nothing wrong with catching the move from like 31,000 to 34,000 or 38,000, as opposed to missing the move from, I mean, what are we at now? Like 30, so 3,500. Like, you don't need to catch the move immediately, in my opinion. And when I say you, I'm talking about me. Don't copy me. Um, But I do want to switch things up in terms of like traditional equities and shift back to those. I wanted to share one equity that had kind of been showing some weakness, and could be a hedge if we have some downside volatility in terms of like NASDAQ. Obviously, things are ripping and skies are looking pretty clear and blue today, but the other thing that I do have to kind of mention is that the dollar is the talk of the town right now in terms of like CNBC. Everybody's focusing on it. Kind of reminds me of when the pound fell and we had like the gilt crisis, with Britain back, like a year ago. So anytime the sentiment does get very extreme, I always just get a little bit cautious. So, if we were to prepare for the dollar rally, what are the types of assets I would look at in the equity market? I would look at things that are kind of weak relative to everything else that's really been outperforming this week. Something that has come across the board recently with me has just been like some of these retailers, namely just Walmart, because it had such a bullish run, and then something that we had posted and talked about in the community. When was this? The 9th. Check out this headline coming from Barron's. Walmart is quietly growing into a retail tech giant. And this is one day from the previous local top. And then, yeah, we just have much more sentiment. And anytime, Barron's has like a stock recommendation, especially after a very strong uptrend, it's always interesting to just kind of observe the asset and whether or not it starts, reversing or doing something else. I haven't traded Walmart yet personally. I've just been watching it a lot. And after the last week, since this article's come out, like we have had some relative weakness. And, I think
Yeah.
if you were to say, if the S&P or the NASDAQ's going to go down next week for whatever reason, this is one of the equities that's been very weak. And even if the NASDAQ goes up, you still might get lucky and Walmart may go down or continue to go down like what it's doing today.
Yeah.
So just something to keep an eye on. Monte, anything to add to that?
No, that's definitely an interesting play though, and something I've been watching closely. I am not currently trading Walmart, but um, yeah, that is been one that has seen a ton of volume on the back of their attempt to enter into the technological world and kind of step away from being a traditional retailer. But I don't know if investors are really kind of buying into that as much as they had hoped. So we'll see.
How are they
Um,
going to be innovators? Well, I guess they did innovate in terms of taking the toilet seats off their toilets in order to save costs. I don't know how that equates to becoming a tech giant or innovator, but we shall see.
oh man, you kill me. All right, let's talk about some altcoins. Because we are seeing some decent moves today, and they're in a lot of the assets that we've talked about this week. And there's a few in particular that I would like to mention. One being one that I almost feel dirty talking about because I don't particularly trade it that often, but
Oh, do it. Power through it. Oh, Litecoin? I thought you were going to bring up Bitcoin Cash. Litecoin's fine. How could you feel dirty with this?
I like to stick to like Bitcoin and ETH and sometimes I don't know, Litecoin's just a dino coin that a lot of people don't think will make strong moves, but I'm seeing something different here. Yesterday we talked about how the funding rate was getting overwhelmingly negative, and today we're seeing some shorts squeezed out. Not only that, but look at this trading volume, up 81% in the last 24 hours relative. $1.8 billion notional. That is significant and something that we haven't seen in in Litecoin for quite some time. So now that we're getting massive, a massive uptick in volume and we're forming this kind of rounding bottom here, like that's the ideal time to enter a long trade with the goal of taking profit. I would say just before we reach these local highs, even 110 would be a great level. Put on 3x leverage and, move to 110. That's a really nice gain. And I think we could plausibly see that. Now, you may have noticed while I had CoinGlass up, another one that's volume is up massively, and I wanted to take a look at real quick on the coins list here on Trade the Chain is Matic. Because look at that sentiment.
Oh, did you see the news? They're going to change the name of the token to POL or
Yes.
POL.
Yes. I did see that
Man, I
news.
love crypto marketing. It's so just
Horrible.
superficial, but it works.
It works. And look at this spike in sentiment on the daily or the 7-day, the weekly chart. This is daily sentiment. Look at this spike in daily sentiment in Matic. That in conjunction with a 76% increase in trading volume relative to what we saw yesterday, I think spells signs that we could see some really nice price action later in the day or continuation up to this 0.85 level that I have marked here. We talked about this a little bit yesterday, but I do still think that we could plausibly see this make this move. And look at this volume, right? You know, one thing that we always say is volume is one of the few leading indicators that we actually have. And in this instance, look at how much volume there's already been today. And we still have 9.5 hours left in this daily candle. We are going to exceed this, this easily in terms of volume. And that tells me that we could see, a move back up to 0.85, plausibly a move even back up towards $1. So Matic and Litecoin both seeing some really interesting price action in terms of the amount of capital that's being poured into them, relative to what they've seen in the last few days. And um, I had one more thing to say. Uniswap. That was the last one. Now, this is one that we've been talking about all throughout the last couple of weeks here. It's been this nice uptrend. Nick actually posted about the sentiment regarding uni. And I know some people in the community were able to take that trade and, profit off this uptrend. But I mean, look at how intact this uptrend is. I know this trend line, chimps can draw trend lines. They don't mean really anything in this grand scheme of things. But again, very similar to Matic, we have this sort of rounding bottom here where, we're seeing bullish price action that could take us back towards the level at which we, previously climbed to, which was about 5.8. That would be a nice move of about 50 cents and a nice, potential way to capitalize on a move to the upside. I think we see a higher beta move from Uni than we do from Bitcoin or ETH. And thus, I'm willing to take a little bit of a shot on this. I mentioned yesterday that I did go ahead and enter this position. So, my goal is to take one third of the profits here, and then the remaining 2/3 of the profits here if we reach those levels. And I think we definitely can. So those are 3 altcoins right now that I am currently trading, and I think that have some, given the sentiment, given the volume, and given the technical formation, those are the 3 things I like to see in order to enter. And now that I'm seeing all 3 of those, I think that we could see some very nice price action in those 3 altcoins, being Litecoin, Matic, and Uni.
Yeah, I think Matic is the clear, or I should say poll now. We're prepared to say
Poll.
poll.
It's gonna take some time to get used to it, but
Not after the first 10%. Just pretend it's like Aptos or something new. See, that's the whole point. That's the whole psychological trick. You trick people into forgetting about the losses they had on Matic and get them excited about the gains that they're going to get on Pole. See, they're not the same thing. The ticker is different. Did Meta go up a lot when they first changed the ticker from Facebook to Meta? Didn't it jump a good amount? I mean, that was in 21, granted.
yeah,
But
yeah, and that was like a genuine shift of their business model. This is like just literally just like rebranding, like marketing, crypto marketing.
it
They're
works
changing,
though.
they're changing the
With the stock
protocol
split.
slightly, but yeah. Any altcoins beyond those 3, or anything you'd like to add to those 3 that you have on your radar today, CJ?
I mean, I'm kind of just still, my long-term altcoin hold is Lido, but in the short term, I also think Pepe is going to be an interesting play. Obviously, hasn't really done anything this week. CFX was moving a little bit earlier yesterday. It was one of the top leaders, up like 11%. Hasn't really done anything today though. I don't know. I really would only have confidence in the short term in something like Matic, just because it looks exactly like Sol did before it ripped out. So, we'll see. I'm kind of just glancing over a couple different charts here, but ultimately we'll have to see what comes in with Asia tonight. Hang Seng has been rebounding a little bit too. Did you see there was really negative news in terms of Chinese exports? I think their exports last night were like way lower than anticipated. I went on to CNBC's website and it was one of the breaking news articles. Oddly enough, though, the Hang Seng was had its best performing day in like the last 2 months. I think it was up around 2 or 3%. So
Yeah, and also the Kospi as well. Check out this chart real quick. Last
there you
night,
go, back above the chimp trend line. Love it.
we're back in the
Just a
back in
slight
the channel.
deviation.
But like, look at this. I mean, it gapped up big time and then was sold into. We'll see if there's any continuation tonight. I think that is a large reason why we're seeing such strong altcoin performance. Obviously, risk on price action in Asia leads to good price action in the altcoin sector. That's what we typically see. And this gap up, led to some nice price action. But of course, it finished the day. Look at how this thing looks from an hourly perspective. I mean, it gapped up and then round tripped back to where it started. So we'll see if it is able to get above this critical 2600 level. If it does, I think that bodes well for the alts. But if we see this continuation to the downside, see this gap fill, which is looking likely, that we may see some risk off price action in the alts. But for now, Asia seems to be risk on, and that it, like I said, bodes well for the alts.
All right. Well, I think that's about all we've got for today, at least for me. Tomorrow we'll be back. It'll be interesting to talk about maybe some new positioning data that comes out. It's always interesting to see, post-market volatility on Fridays. But yeah, should be a good day. I'm really interested to see if the dollar bottoms today or is like within a day or two of bottoming, because the sentiment is like, I don't watch CNBC. I don't have a TV in my office with CNBC on it like many folks do. But it seems to be what everybody's talking about. And usually that's kind of a warning signal. Anyways, appreciate it, Lucas. Have to catch up with you again one of these days when I'm out in your hood. But otherwise, Monte, I'll leave you with the final words. Thank you guys so much. Hope you have a wonderful day.
Yes, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget, you can go over to tradethechain.com for a 14-day free trial. Check out that sentiment dashboard. Also, we got a Discord with a community of members from all around the world who share their insights. Some really bright people in there, and love chatting with them. So definitely check it out. You can try it out 14 days free at tradethechain.com. And also, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel. But that's all we got for this episode. Don't forget, Trading Rebellion, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Myself, CJ, Nick, possibly Alex, if we are blessed with his presence. But
I don't think so. That already sounds like too many.
True. But anyways, we'll see you guys then. Have a great rest of your day and happy trading.